I don't think I would, to be honest. No, as long as it is Land of My
And not the national anthem, not the UK
and
national
not
anthem.
No.
And can you, for the benefit of listeners, tell us how problematic or why that would be problematic for you?
If it was God Save the King.
Yeah.
But because the anthem of Wales is Hen Wlad and Hada. That is the national anthem of Wales. For me, it isn't God Save the King. And I wouldn't personally sing it under any circumstances. It would be Hen Wlad and Hada, and that's it.
Do you know, this is a number of people have messaged with, I thought, sort of fairly glib comments of, we're not a United Kingdom.
Yeah.
I think your call has been really helpful in reminding us that we are several kingdoms in unity.
Yeah.
And that if we're going to talk about national pride, there is a conversation to be had about whether that extends to your home nation national pride or whether it's enforced United Kingdom national pride. Many of my Scottish friends, they would never sing the UK national anthem. And the idea that they would be compelled to do so by law, I think would infuriate them. So, yeah, it's a timely reminder, thanks to you, Helen, that we are several countries supposedly living together in harmony. And how can you reflect that by compelling people to sing an anthem to a United Kingdom that they resent? More of your thoughts to come, please. 0345 6060 973 is the number. Here's Simon English with more LBC News headlines for you.
Training in defence is being ramped up to a wartime pace. Russian strikes have hit the main building of Ukraine's government for the first time, and asylum seekers could be moved from hotels to ex-military barracks under new government plans. LBC weather, heavy rain at times, drier in the southeast with a high of 26 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Problems continue on the underground because of the ongoing strike. The Bakerloo and Circle lines aren't running at all, and the Metropolitan and Piccadilly lines are part suspended, and there's also minor delays on the Jubilee and Victoria lines. Now, elsewhere, there are problems on the roads, and there are delays on the M1 northbound up to junction 15 at the A45. It's all down to an accident where only one lane's open. It's the big half marathon taking place right now, so there's lots of roads closed until around 4 o'clock this afternoon, especially around Canary Wharf, Limehouse, Wapping. Tower Bridge is closed, and roads around Rotherhithe, Deptford and Greenwich all remain closed, so definitely do expect delays.
Coming up at 10 on LBC, Sunday with Lewis Goodall.
This was perhaps the most dramatic week of the Starmer government so far, but is shuffling the deck really enough to steady the ship?
Sunday with Lewis Goodall on LBC.
You've packed enough suitcases to know quality when you see it. Well, Saga Travel Insurance has been named a Which Best Buy. And now get 20% off when you buy before the 30th of September. Search Saga Travel Insurance for a quote today. New policies only, Standard and Plus are Which Best Buys May 2025. Terms and conditions apply, over 50s only.
During the Air France Rendezvous, take advantage of great offers. Until the 23rd of September, book your flight to Beijing from £549 or Johannesburg from £569 from London Heathrow via Paris, return including tax. Fly with Air France, voted Western Europe's best airline for the 5th year running by Skytrax. Elegance is a journey. Air France. To book and for terms and conditions, visit airfrance.co.uk.
I've been asked by Shredded Wheat to read out their ingredients list. Drum roll. Whole grain wheat. No, that's it. A single ingredient, high fibre cereal. Shredded wheat. It simply does it. I'm telling you, that's it. Applies to shredded wheat, bite size and big biscuit only.
Zero, nada, zilch. When Vauxhall say 0%, they mean 0%. No catch, no compromise. 0% APR is available now across the Vauxhall car range, including the all-new Frontera Electric. With a minimum 20% deposit and up to 4 years on offer, what's not to like? You'll pay 0% APR for 100% Vauxhall. Search Vauxhall to find out more. Personal contract purchase, 20% deposit required, subject to status and availability. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Stellantis Financial Services.
Managing your business is a big task. To then stay on top of the numbers as well, they're only human. That's why the Intuit QuickBooks AI-powered platform supports your business growth as the #1 recommended cloud accounting software. Intuit QuickBooks. Based on a survey of 506 UK accounting professionals, verify at quickbooks.co.uk/verify.
Matthew Wright on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
What do we think about getting encouraging children to sing the national anthem and raise the Union Jack every morning at school. Hugo's on the line from Sandhurst. Morning, Hugo.
Morning.
What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it is highly disingenuous coming from a party, apparently promoting civil liberties and freedom of speech. They want to indoctrinate children from a very young age. In a country where, as we've heard earlier, made up of 4 separate countries, different ethnicities, nationalities. So it is also a slippery slope to becoming a third world country, really, because if you well, I mean, usually you will see this kind of attitude in countries like Turkey, for instance, where there are there's a multi-ethnic composition and separatist movements, and then the country obviously, imposes an authoritarian rule, such as on the Kurdish region of Turkey, and then they force children to sing an anthem that says, I think that's something along the lines of, proud is a person who says I'm a Turk, something along those lines, every morning, and it is without exception. And this is obviously the sort of attitude that you can expect, in a country with authoritarian rule and deep-seated insecurities about the state in general. Sorry, yeah. No,
you don't get the sense of pride, and I mean, devil's advocate. I take your point on multi-ethnicities, and we are a nation of 4 countries. Is it too much to dream that we can unite under the Union Jack? I mean, I'm very mindful that the national anthem has a particularly damaging line towards Scotland, so I'm not entirely sure I can in good faith ask, should we expect the nation to come together under the national anthem? Because I can see lots of Scottish nationalists would resent it. But is there some positive that we can come together under a flag, unite under a flag?
Well, I don't see the flag. I mean, why do you need to? We don't need to come under symbols or show symbols as a representation of our union, as it were. So it's difficult to explain, but if you are a newly independent country, such as Jamaica, or if you are a suppressed country, oppressed, and you've become independent, you want to show a degree of nationalism and pride. It is understandable, but I don't see the reason for it in England, for instance.
I like that as a line. You don't see the reason for it, because I think that's an interesting criticism, because there's no sort of scientific or
Today's musical performance is a stars in their eyes style entrance from Nigel Farage, and false claims from that the COVID vaccine is responsible for cancer cases in the royal family. Is this political party really credible? Is it winning you over? Plus,
the email's landed, folks. The email has landed. We have the details of the reshuffle.
After a seismic week for the Prime Minister, which saw the dramatic departure of his deputy Angela Rayner, a massive overhaul of the cabinet, has he achieved his goal of resetting his stuttering government, which we're struggling to deliver, and losing supporters to his left and to his right?
Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. This is LBC.
Well, this was supposed to be the reset, wasn't it? This was supposed to be the moment this autumn when Keir Starmer would use his party conference to be able to finally reset a government which has had, perhaps inevitably, but absolutely certainly, a difficult, indeed sometimes torrid first year in office. It was only a few days ago that Keir Starmer was taking to Twitter to say that this was stage 2 of his government. A few days later, 48 hours later, he had lost his deputy prime minister, a seismic event in any circumstances. There are probably, in my view, only 3 before this week. 3 government ministers who really mattered, whose departure would change the calculus and course in political terms and in policy terms of this government. One is Starmer himself, self-evidently. One is Rachel Reeves, the only cabinet minister we were told was safe in her job this week. and the other was Angela Rayner. They were the triumvirate which basically set the terms of this government. Not because Rayner was especially influential in policy terms. Deputy Prime Minister is an honorific title in many ways. It has no constitutional significance. In many ways, Pat McFadden was until this week the Deputy Prime Minister in all but name. But nonetheless, in terms of her politics, in terms of what she represented, in terms of what she offered to Keir Starmer and his government, she was vital. And you know what? As we like to do on this show, we can think two things in our head at the same time. Rayner was absolutely foolish in her conduct, and she was right to resign. She had to. She was the attack dog. She went after Tory ministers. She should have been far more meticulous in her tax affairs. It is also true, and it can be true at the same time, that she was always despised by many of her political enemies, both on the right and in the right-wing press, precisely because of why she was an asset to Starmer, because of who she was. She was a working-class, powerful woman. She was threatening to those interests because she could authentically speak for the same people they erroneously claim to speak for. And she could never be dismissed as a liberal elite, their favourite little trick. And that is why they went after her, whether it was right or wrong. That is why she was subject to endless scrutiny over and above a normal politician. And that is why she had to be extra meticulous and why she fell. That is now in the past. There is a question about what Angela Rayner does next, and that will be a live one for Keir Starmer. But Keir Starmer looked decisive at the weekend with that reshuffle. But now all of the questions come. Because tomorrow, today, effectively, maybe even on this show, who knows, the deputy leadership contest of the Labour Party begins in earnest. And inevitably, it will become a de facto battle for the future of the party post-Starmer, with a full-on beauty contest at conference. That is now what Number 10 and Keir Starmer have to try and avoid. They have to try and contain this deputy leadership contest so it does not dominate the national conversation at a time when they have so much else and so many other fires to try and put out. No matter what he does, in my view, this deputy leadership contest, unless he can dominate it, unless he can choose a favoured candidate, it will make him look weaker and destabilise what was supposed to be an autumn reset. Disaster all around, questions everywhere. How long will the contest be? Which candidates will rise? Will the PM endorse? And meanwhile, the international scene looks as chaotic as ever. As I say, we're coming live from Washington this morning when President Trump is amplifying his promises to send the National Guard troops and immigration agents into Chicago by posting a parody image from Apocalypse Now featuring a ball of flames as helicopters zoom over the nation's third largest city, saying, the president, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning." Chicago is about to find out why it's called the Department for War. So much to get through with this new political season this morning. I want your thoughts on everything in particular as to whether you think Keir Starmer can and has reset his government with that reshuffle. 0345 60 973. Let's turn to Aggie Chambray, our political correspondent, of course. Aggie, I don't know where to begin really this morning. Let's start with the deputy leadership contest. What do we know? Do we know anyone who is standing yet? When is it going to be? How long is it going to take?
So many good questions. Right, so no one has confirmed they are standing to be deputy leader yet. But as you say, this is likely to be torrid. This is potentially going to be toxic for the Starmer project. And I think quite a lot of the reason so desperately keen to hang on to Angela Rayner last week was to avoid this deputy leadership contest, because it's basically going to be a lineup of people who are trying to ingratiate themselves with the members. And how are they going to do that? Well, the members don't like Keir Starmer very much at the moment, so potentially they'll be saying how Keir Starmer could be better, what he's doing wrong, what he's done wrong so far. So that is going to be very, very difficult. So as I say, no one confirmed yet, but names that are in the frame. Louise Haigh, potentially, from the soft left. Lucy Powell's name, too, being bandied around this morning by Andy Burnham, among others. David Lammy is the deputy...
But she just got sacked. She just got sacked.
I know. So you can imagine how her...
That would be a touch awkward, wouldn't it, Aggie?
Well, I mean, this is exactly why it's so awkward doing reshuffles. So it is possible that she is going to stand, and Andy Burnham mentioned her name this morning. How do you think she's going to... What do you think her campaign's going to be like, seeing as she's just been sacked, one of the two people to be sacked from Cabinet?
Well, I'm sure she'll be very kind to the Prime Minister, very generous.
Of course. Then David Lammy is the Deputy Prime Minister, but there are people that I've spoken to in the government who think that it's actually very, very difficult to not have a woman in that role. So obviously, you know, It's going to be democratic, but potentially he might not stand Siobhan Mahmood's name too in the frame. Richard Bergen tweeted on Friday about the fact that this can't be a stitch-up. I sent him a message asking if he was going to run, and he hasn't replied to me, so that could potentially be a hint as well. But in terms of how long this is going to last...
Or he just doesn't like you.
That's actually more possible. So there's already people arguing about the timeline of this. Some people think it shouldn't have happened at all. They think they should have found a way to ditch the position. I don't know whether that is possible, but that was a live conversation. Other people think they should have just done it in literally a week. Number 10 should have said, this is our preferred candidate, just get it over and done with. But it's looking like it may not actually happen until after Labour Party conference. The NEC, the National Executive Committee, is going to meet tomorrow to agree a timeline finally on that. But that basically means that it's going to be this beauty pageant, this beauty parade over conference where everyone is talking. And we've already had it this morning as well. Andy Burnham, as I mentioned, out and about. He said we need, the Mayor of Greater Manchester saying we need to use the deputy leadership contest to discuss the balance in cabinet and talk about the internal management of the Labour Party. So you can imagine that would be music to Number 10's ears.
And meanwhile, I mean, that's the government and that's the Labour Party, Aggie. Meanwhile, we had a remarkable... I mean, I've been in the United States, so I've gutted to miss it. And I know you've been doing Westminster stuff, so you as well. But the Reform Conference, an extraordinary sight. And what struck me about it was, you know, we've heard so much reform over the course of the last 6 months, 12 months. You've had conversations, I'm sure I've had conversations with internal people talking about they're professionalising the party, you know, that's the message they want to send out. And yet, they have a sort of weird karaoke thing with various people, including Andrea Jenkins, the Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, coming out singing, OK, fine. But then vaccine conspiracy theorists speaking from the platform. I mean, this is not the professional image we were told that they wanted to project.
No, definitely not. And there are people who just think everything Nigel Farage says and everything his party does is brilliant. But there are other people who are looking at the Labour Party, looking at the Conservatives, and then thinking that they are politically homeless and thinking maybe Nigel Farage's party is where they want to go. But those are the people that Nigel Farage needs to convince that he is running a professional outfit. And I'm not going to pass judgment on the karaoke, even though it does seem to have cut through. A lot of people are talking about Andrea Jenkins' performance. These really difficult speeches, which does not look like the party is a professional outfit. As you say, this speech by British Dr. Asim Al-Altra, who basically said that vaccines, he thinks that COVID vaccines have been a significant factor in the cancer of members of the royal family. Now, Reform UK quickly tried to distance themselves from that, but fundamentally said, oh, it's about free speech. Now, I should just say that's not true. There is no link between COVID vaccines and cancer, and Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has called it dangerous, has called it poisonous, and blamed not for all reform for platforming these comments. But I think that is difficult, and difficult for them as well, with the fact that actually their conference overshadowed by chaos, but still, conference is 2 days when we're supposed to have the limelight, supposed to get a lot of coverage, and actually, at least on Friday, they definitely didn't get that.
Aggie Schomburg there, LBC political correspondent. Well, let's start the conversation on that deputy leadership contest immediately with John McDonnell, MP for Hayes and Harlington. Former Shadow Chancellor under Jeremy Corbyn, of course, was suspended from the PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party, alongside others, including Zara Sultana last year. John McDonnell, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Let's start with this deputy leadership contest. How do you view it? Do you view it as an opportunity to have a conversation about the future direction of the party?
Most people will want that sort of wide-ranging discussion. Andy Burnham this morning mentioned that he felt it was about discussing the party management. I think that will be a big issue about whether the leadership are listening to our members and to our MPs. That it will be an issue, but I think it will most probably be more wide-ranging. I think most of us in the party realise we're at quite a dangerous moment with the threat of reform. So there will be a debate, I think, about how we deal with that, how do we tackle reform. But there'll be other issues as well about what's happened to individual policy, like the disability benefits cuts, that sort of thing. But also Gaza will come on the agenda. And I don't think anyone should be fearful of that sort of debate. It can be held in, how we describe ourselves, it can be held in a comradely way, as long as it's properly allowed. What I'm worried about is that if there is an attempt, for example, to bounce through the NEC, and that you don't get a range of candidates onto the ballot paper reflecting the broad church of the party, I think people will feel there's been a stitch-up and they've been cheated out of the opportunity of having that debate, and that would be the biggest mistake, I think.
Do you think Number 10 will try and stitch it up?
I hope not. I think it'd be a huge mistake if Keir tried that one. It's not so much Keir, it's more the courtiers around him, the Morgan McSweeneys and others. It's in their style, as you know, to do those sorts of tight management of the party, which then comes a cropper at a later stage. I'm hoping they've learnt a few lessons. And, why not have a debate? Because actually it will demonstrate the health of the party. And in some ways, Keir's allowing that demonstrates a sort of his own strength, that he's able to do that.
How long do you think the contest ought to be?
Well, if you look at what's happened in the past, and there's been a proper discussion, debate, usually it's over about 4 weeks, so it allows you then, the candidates to tour around the country, meet party members then to meet in their individual constituencies, and then for the party members also to express their view to the MPs about who they should nominate, who they prefer they nominated, and then the debate starts in earnest around those particular issues. So a reasonable time, like a month, I don't think is a rush on it. I think it'd be highly appropriate.
Do you think that there will be a candidate of the left? Obviously, the requirement, the threshold is quite high. 80 MPs now required, with 20% of the party, the PLP, being so big. Do you think that there will be a candidate of the left?
Well, the threshold, as you said, was increased to prevent a candidate from the left coming forward. Let's be honest about that. That's what the manoeuvre was all about. I think that's a real mistake. I think the NEC should look at that immediately when they meet on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it is, and reduce the level. Because I think you should have a broad range. Why not have a broad range? Left, soft, left, centre, right, you name it. Why not have a broad range of candidates? You'd have a healthier debate in that way, and we can just show then how robust our party is. If it is 80, I think it's tough to see a left candidate getting onto the ballot paper, but you never know in these circumstances. And, we've got a large number of new MPs who might want to basically demonstrate how they're listening to their own party members in their constituencies. And the party membership is generally to the left of the PLP and would like a left candidate, I believe.
Do you think that the deputy leader needs to be a woman?
I think there has to be balance. It doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. I think all our party members will take into account the different factors about location, where they're from, their track record, that sort of thing. I think it's more about the politics than the personality of this thing. It's the Tony Benn thing. It's not the individuals concerned, it's the individuals' ideas and their policies that they're advocating. And that's why I keep repeating, that's why we need a breadth of candidates to enable that debate to happen. I want to listen to people, and also I want to know their track record about what they've voted for when they've been in government over the last 12 months.
There is a suggestion, a fear from some, an aspiration from others, or hope, that the reshuffle means that the government is going to move, particularly on some of these social questions, to the right. We've already perhaps seen that this morning with the briefing we're seeing from the Home Office, from the new Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, with asylum seekers potentially put up in modular accommodation and army barracks and this sort of thing. Some worry about the prospect of Angela Rayner's workers' rights legislation being diluted. Is that something you're concerned about, or think is likely?
I have to be straight with you. I am worried. The reshuffle has meant that actually some elements of what you would describe as the soft left have been removed from office, in particular Lucy Powell, but also Justin Madders, who did all the employment. He did all the hard work on the employment rights legislation, and for the life of me, I can't understand why he's lost his position, because I think he was respected across the PLP for the good job that he did, and also the trade unions trusted him. So I think there has been a shift to the right as a result of this reshuffle, and I'm worried about where we're going on the issue with regard to the asylum seekers. I've said time and time again, stop dancing to Nigel Farage's tune. But every time you shift to the right on the basis of what he's saying, he simply pulls them even further to the right. And as a result of that, we lose support on what I think are the mainstream of our society, which are progressive and sympathetic to us, making sure that we welcome people here and care for them.
John McDonnell there, former Shadow Chancellor under Jeremy Corbyn, of course, will be putting some of those points to the Defence Secretary, John Healey, very shortly. Want your thoughts throughout, as always. 0345 60 60 973. You're listening to Sunday with Lewis Goodall here on LBC. The time is 10:21.
This is LBC.
When you're smiling. Banning Dental Group clinics with over 5,000 top-rated Google reviews. Keep on smiling.
Now, listen carefully. I want you to think of selling your car. Who's going to buy that car? Keep thinking. Struggling to know where to look? On Motorway, there are 7,500 verified dealers who are ready and waiting to bid on your car. It's not magic, it's Motorway. Sell your car today at motorway.co.uk.
During the Air France Rendezvous, take advantage of great offers. Until the 23rd of September, book your flight to Beijing from £549 or Johannesburg from £569 from London Heathrow via Paris, return including tax. Fly with Air France, voted Western Europe's best airline for the 5th year running by Skytrax. Elegance is a journey. Air France. To book and for terms and conditions, visit airfrance.co.uk.
Managing your business is a big task. To then stay on top of the numbers as well, you're only human. That's why the Intuit QuickBooks AI-powered platform supports your business growth as the #1 recommended cloud accounting software. Intuit QuickBooks. Based on a survey of 506 UK accounting professionals. Verify at quickbooks.co.uk/verify.
We check your chickens. Chicken that they're all chirpy. Look for a better labeling. Have a better bit of chicken for tea. Your roast will taste so tasty from chicks that we've checked out. So take your chicken to the checkout when you've done your chicken checking. Waitrose Chicken Checks Out.
The only supermarket where all our chicken checks out against the Better Chicken Commitment standard or higher. Waitrose, the home of food lovers. Applies to all Waitrose own brand chicken.
This is LBC Sunday with Lewis Goodall. Call 0345 60 973. Send a comment to LBC.
I'm London
transparent about his health. So we don't know the first thing. In his first term, they had some weird quack doctor who would issue weird statements every now and then saying he's the healthiest president America's ever had. He's as healthy as a 40-year-old. So no, we cannot believe anything about Donald Trump's health that they put out, and we don't know anything. Look, I oppose Trump, but I'm not one of these Trump opponents who even thinks or cares he might die in a week. He's a fascist in the White House. He stands against everything America stands for. That's what gets me riled up, and that's what's got to get the American people riled up. And I don't want to see people on the left saying, oh, I hope he dies. No, we need to defeat what he's doing.
Joe Walsh there, former Republican congressman for Illinois. Republican, but as you heard, stern critic of President Trump. Want your thoughts on that for sure? US politics, what we're hearing, but also, of course, as well, what's going on in the UK in this cabinet reshuffle. Can it actually reset anything for Keir Starmer? 0345 6060 973. Crazy times once again here in the United States. Again, we're getting used to this stuff. A sitting American president threatening to use American troops against his own citizens on the streets of his own city. In this case, Chicago.
A team of dental experts second to none, armed with the very latest in dental implant knowledge, technology, and techniques. Visit darwinandtanner.co.uk.
At Lidl, you could save like a hero by switching from Sainsbury's to Lidl and saving a super £36 on this week's big shop at lidl.co.uk/save more. Save like a hero on your weekly staples, your fresh 5 a day, and big brands. Lidl, Retail Industry Award Supermarket of the Year. Prices check 2nd and the 9th 25. Sainsbury's also sell other products. See online for more details.
You're really building that business, Josh? That's because you chose to bank with Virgin Money, earning cash back on your supplies, turning expenses into rewards on everything from Sanders to Skip Hire. You came, you soared, you conquered. Open Virgin Money Plus, terms and exclusions apply. Cashback rate of 0.25% backed by the current account Switzerland. Your money is a trading name, applies no bank PLC.
How exciting is it to play the British Heart Foundation's weekly flutter? Exciting enough to get your heart racing. Just a little bit. Like texting a mate. The same time they text you. Yeah, like flipping pancakes with majestic grace. Spotting that last parking space. Yes, with the added joy of knowing the money you donate helps to fund life-saving research. £1 to play, £1,000 to win every week. Search British Heart Foundation Weekly Lottery. See, it's a little bit exciting.
Gamble responsibly. Over 18s only. T's and C's apply. Please see our website for more details. British Heart Foundation is a registered charity.
This is LBC Sunday with Lewis Goodall. Call 0345 6060 973. Text or info. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Sunday with Lewis Goodall, sun rising here in Washington, Potomac. Going to be a lovely day. 6:23 here, 11:23 in London. We're going to be talking to a former chair of the Parliamentary Labour Party about that deputy leadership contest in a moment. Let's turn first, though, to Harry, who is in Plymouth, who has got something to say on Donald Trump, I think. Morning, Harry.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks. Early here, but all good. Your thoughts on President Trump and this Chicago stuff?
Well, yeah, it's more to do with the comments of John Healey, which have riled me up, really. I admit that he has congratulated his oppo in the US for the renaming of the Department of Defense or Secretary of Defense to...
I did think that was weird. I have to say, I agree with you. I thought that was odd.
I think it's abhorrent, actually. I'm embarrassed as a UK citizen for him, and I think he should be ashamed of himself.
Explain why?
Well, I mean, if you look into it, from any angle, really, this executive order, which I don't think is legal anyway, as far as I know, over 700,000 facilities in America are going to need rebranding at a cost of estimated to be up to $1 billion. Not only is it a vast amount of taxpayers' money for them, but it's going to have absolutely no impact on the Russians or the Chinese. Worse still, it's probably going to be seen as the USA being a warmongering threat to international security. And we're congratulating them on
I think Harry, what struck me is, to be honest, I asked that as a sort of, not throwaway. I just expected him to just dismiss it quite easy. I thought he'd just sort of say, look, that's a matter for them. I'm not going to pass comment on it one way or the other. But I thought the very fact, and I agree with you, I thought it was very odd, the fact that he said, I congratulated him, I think it just shows just how eager, and in a way they've got to do this, but just how much they're trying to keep the Trump administration on side. And he talks to exit all the time, and I think it's just a reflection of that, really.
Absolutely, I get that, but we've always held ourselves to a higher standard, especially when it comes to geopolitical matters. Second World War, and all conflict in between. I think we've always been on the right side of that moral boundary. But actually, we're in danger here of sitting in camp with them when actually, his Mr. Hegseth's comments, we are going to go on offence. We're going to raise up warriors, not defenders. I mean, this is just absolute, it's warmongering language. And, my fear as well, going back to, I think, your last caller, was, that I think Trump's got a wider plan here. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but, I rarely listen to any of the bumps, but actually, he doesn't want midterms to go smoothly, and he would quite value the instability of geopolitical terms to be able to allow himself any amount of leeway to get what he wants from the midterms. And, as far as I know, if there's some sort of military action going on, then that can be affected.
Okay, Harry, grateful to you. Let's turn now to Lord Clive Soley, a Labour peer, former chair of the Parliamentary Labour Party. So knows a thing or two about Labour Party leadership elections and all of the jockeying for position that will now inevitably be going on within the PLP to try and get those 80 nominations that are required to stand for the deputy leadership. Lord Soley, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Your thoughts on what you think the length of the contest ought to be? Short, long, your thoughts?
Well, I think short, if possible. I think we need to get this sorted. I think one of the problems recently is that certainty of direction and so on. And I think Starmer has made your point. I think that's right. I think you get a deputy chairmanship as soon as possible. Really, the key this is that Trump's know we can deliver on both the economy and make it feel better about the immigration. Both of those money, of course.
I think Lord Soley, I'm afraid the line isn't brilliant, so we'll try and fix that and come back to it if we can. Let's just turn it for a second then to Kevin, who is in Malden, who's got something to say about reform while we try and fix that line. Kevin, good morning.
Hi, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, well, thanks. Very good. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about double standards that are currently existing within reform, in line with what's happening with the government and the resignation of Angela Rayner. So Jamie McIver, who is a reform member, spoke at conference, hosted, I think, a group or something, it said on the schedule. He is Reform's Director of Cleaning Up Councils. Unfortunately, he appears to not be that clean himself. He currently owes 141,025 to creditors, including 42,000.
I'll tell you what, Kevin starts sort of throwing around numbers and figures and particular people, because the gentleman, I'm not familiar with the case, and the gentleman involved isn't here to defend himself. So I think probably best, unless you've got something else to say, to leave that one side.
I mean, it's a shame that double standards can't be brought up, though. If reform are having somebody...
I think it's fine to talk about double standards, but let's not get involved. Sure. I think it's fine to talk about double standards, but let's not get too specific about particular individuals whose cases we might not be familiar with.
Okay, sure. Can I mention things like COVID bounce-back loans, or no? State-owned money, state-backed money.
In any case, Lord Soley, thanks so much. I think we've cleaned that up now. You were saying about the length of the contest. What do you think it ought to be?
I think it ought to be shorter rather than longer. I think we need to get this period behind us as fast as possible and get on with delivery. The key for Keir Starmer and the Labour government is to make people feel better about the economy and, of course, to deal with the boat crisis, the immigration issue. Those two things are key to this. There's time to do it, but we really can't have any more problems like we've had over the last few weeks.
Do you think the Prime Minister and Number 10 ought to endorse anybody, or they should stay out of it?
I think for the moment, they'd probably stay out of it because you need to know who's going to stand. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussions going on, quite rightly. The key, in a sense, for the deputy is to have someone who's good at listening to party members, because in a way that's where we've lost it a bit. And the person should be a listener rather than worrying about left-right bit. I mean, one of the things that troubles me about the present climate, not just in Britain, but in the States and Europe too, is that we're moving away from left-right politics into national identity politics, which can be quite dangerous. So it's very important that the person who gets the deputy leadership is a very good listener and communicates well what he hears to Keir Starmer and to ministers.
Do you think it would be better if this person were not a minister in that vein?
I'm not sure about that. I think it probably is better to be a minister, actually. But having said that, it wouldn't be the first time the Labour Party had someone who's not a minister in that role. So it's not an absolute one way or the other.
It is, as you will know, historically speaking, quite unusual to have a deputy leadership election at a different time from the leader. Typically, they're elected at once, and so at once. Is there a danger, therefore, that this becomes a big distraction for the government?
I think if we do it quickly enough, and as long as it's a good contest in the sense of people, recognising that the party has to hold together when it's in government, then I don't think that would be a problem. But clearly, if it became a divisive issue or whatever, you'd be in trouble.
Do you agree with John McDonnell, Chancellor earlier, who was saying he thinks that as a result of this reshuffle and the departure of Angela Rayner, the government has moved to the right? Do you think that's correct?
I think the problem with this idea is that it goes back to the idea that somehow or other we can stick with the old idea of left-right politics. And if you look at what's happening, not just in Britain, but in a number of countries, politics has become much more about identity. That's what reform is winning on. It's not winning on being left-wing or right-wing. It's identity. And, so I think John is wrong to focus on the left-right issue, I don't think that's the most relevant thing. I think the reality is more worried about that than I am simply the name at this stage. I think you've got to look at who would do this in that way. And incidentally,
do you think Keir Starmer has not been listening to party members?
I think he does listen, but I'm not sure that's being communicated to people. They don't feel listened to. And a lot of politics is about what you feel. And yes, I think it's right to say they don't feel listened to.
All right, Lord Clive Solly, their Labour peer and former chair of the Parliamentary Labour Party. Listening to Sunday with Lewis Goodall here in Washington. Time here is 6:34. Time in London, 11:34. Let's get the latest LBC News headlines now. It's Simon English.
Asylum seekers could be moved from hotels to ex-military barracks under new government plans. The Defence Secretary John Healey says his department is working with the Home Office on the proposal. Ukraine says Russian missiles hit multiple cities overnight, leaving at least 2 people dead. Government offices in Kyiv are among the targets. 5 new defence budgets being announced as part of the government's drive to increase the number of skilled workers in the UK military. It's looking to improve national security and create jobs for young people and veterans. And LBC weather: outbreaks of rain spreading northeastwards across the UK, dry with sunshine in the southeast, temperatures reaching 26 degrees.
Online Safety Day. Follow it live tomorrow on LBC.
Bill?
Yes?
Did you throw my green dress in the bin?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's not that bad, look. Just said you look like a shit. I'm sure she meant it in a cute way.
Bill?
Well, you could at least donate it. There must be someone who could get use out of it. Maybe turn it into a pair of curtains.
I said put it in the laundry bin, Bill.
Oh, right.
Not hearing the whole conversation? Book a free hearing check with one of our experts at Specsavers. I've always loved courgettes.
At Lidl, you can save like a hero by switching from Sainsbury's to Lidl and saving a super £36 on this week's big shop at lidl.co.uk/save more. Save like a hero on your weekly staples, your fresh 5 a day and big brands. Lidl, Retail Industry Awards Supermarket of the Year. Prices check 2nd to the 9th, 25. Sainsbury's also sell other products. See online for more details.
I've been asked by Shredded Wheat to read out their ingredients list. Drum roll. Whole grain wheat. No, that's it. A single ingredient, high fibre cereal. Shredded wheat. It simply does it. I'm telling you, that's it. Applies to shredded wheat, bite size and big biscuit only.
Zero, nada, zilch. When Vauxhall say 0%, they mean 0%. No catch, no compromise. 0% APR is available now across the Vauxhall car range, including the all-new Frontera Electric. With a minimum 20% deposit and up to 4 years on offer, what's not to like? You'll pay 0% APR for 100% Vauxhall. Search Vauxhall to find out more. Personal contract purchase, 20% deposit required. Status and availability, T's and C's and exclusions apply. Stellantis Financial Services.
For whoever they want to be in life, give them a great start with Well Kid. Carefully balanced, great-tasting vitamins and minerals for 4 to 12-year-olds with specific nutrients such as zinc and vitamin D, which support normal immune system function. The Well Kid range from Vitabiotics, from Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com.
Sunday with Lewis Goodall on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Time is 11:37 in London, 6:37 here in Washington. A little bit of breaking news, international news. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has said he's decided to resign, telling his Liberal Democratic Party, they've been dominant in Japan for virtually 75 years, that they're going to hold an emergency leadership race. That follows bad election results a couple of months ago. So big news in a big G7 economy there. Now let's turn to other matters, domestic matters. We'll hear a lot more about this on LBC tomorrow. LBC's second ever online safety day, devoting lots and lots of coverage, lots and lots of attention to the massive issues of online safety. And it's just continuing emerging world that we're living in. And if you think it's bad now with social media companies and so on, particularly with kids and kids safety online and so on, just wait until AI comes along. We're starting to see lots and lots of stories about things like artificial intelligence psychosis, people talking to chatbots, kids talking to chatbots telling them to do bad stuff or giving them bad advice or making them feel bad. The list is endless, so loads and loads of coverage on LBC tomorrow. We're going to do a little bit of preview on that on the show now by talking to Lisa Kenovan, mother of Isaac Kenovan, died aged 13. One of a parent who is suing TikTok as a result of the content on that website. We'll also talk to her. Lisa joins us now, I think. Lisa, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Can you just tell us a little bit about Isaac's story?
Firstly, thank you for letting me be on the show. Isaac sadly died March 2022 on the 8th. He was believed to be carrying out an act that unfortunately cost his life. He was a highly intelligent boy, very inquisitive, a typical boy that would always be doing the first things of, like, you know, the bottle flip, the floss, ice bucket challenge. So everything was very, very innocent back then. But as time went on, certain social media platforms have been more and more sinister, and you can see the fallout from that. It's catastrophic, should we say.
So what is it you think that Isaac saw that contributed to what happened?
It is an act that causes a child to pass out. I don't want to promote it unless
Sure.
I'm allowed to.
No, it's fine. I just think it's just important for listeners to have some idea so they can understand what
so it's creating. Yeah, so it's basically almost creating a euphoria, doing something that makes them pass out, and they obviously don't see the dangers because they normally come around.
I understand. What do you make of it's a very active debate in British politics at the moment, online safety. I think it's going to become more intense over the coming months and years as technology continues to develop. I just mentioned AI, for example, but it's obviously really live right now. What, in terms of the current law that we have, and we've got the Online Safety Act now, what do you think is actually in place? Is it anywhere close to being satisfactory in your view?
In most laws or most acts, they're never watertight. There is going to be some element of, they could have done this better, they could have done that better. They do have a huge responsibility, and I just think that with the age verification, I mean, that's very, very important, especially for the adult sites. But obviously you've got the other side where children are very clever, and there's been a huge spike in VPNs, because obviously they can pretend they're in another country where obviously they don't have age verifications in place. So there's nothing ever going to be watertight, but doing something is better than not doing anything at all. I think
Reform have said that the Online Safety Act is a degradation on freedom, and that it is part of the thing that Ross talked about this week is making us into, his view, North Korea. What's your response to that?
I believe we should have freedom of speech. I want to firstly put that out there, that our main aim for the Online Safety Act was to actually keep children safe. And I know that the government have shoehorned in this freedom of speech, and it has squashed a lot of people's views. Where I don't believe in certain parts of freedom of speech is belittling, bullying, getting people to be so in a dark place that they're intending to take their own lives from online trolls, bullying. I believe that should be squashed. But for actual freedom of speech, of how you feel like doing politics, absolutely, everyone should have that.
Lisa Kennevin there, mother of Isaac Kennevin, died at age 13, one of the parents suing TikTok. I should say, by the way, that TikTok say that they do not allow content showing or promoting suicide, self-harm, and say that banned hashtags lead users to support helpline. So that's the TikTok view. Let's speak now to Sandra, who's in Leighton Buzzard. Got something to say on reform and that exchange I had about the Taliban, I think, with Layla Cunningham.
Always just focus on women and girls. You know, boys and men are just as important as women and girls. I'm not necessarily in the Afghan situation, because, you know, women are really badly treated. But, you know, there's always this rhetoric about, and even women and girls. You know, I've got 2 sons. I find that really, really offensive.
I understand that, and of course, but I think you just acknowledged yourself, with regards to Afghanistan, there is a particular context, isn't there? Because the Taliban treat women and girls very, very badly, not in a deeply medieval fashion. So that's why it's relevant in this case, you'd agree?
Yeah, and they certainly shouldn't be sent back to Afghanistan, but they should be sent back to the safe country that they come from.
How exciting is it to play the British Heart Foundation's weekly flutter? Ka-ching! Exciting exciting enough to get your heart racing. Just a little bit. Like texting a mate. The same time they text you. Like flipping pancakes with majestic grace. Or spotting that last parking space. Yes, with the added joy of knowing